So today's cardinal lesson, we're going to talk about a lifetime income plan with, like with any client, we don't know how long they're going to live, but there's a chance that one of them or both of them are going to live a long time, up into their 90s, maybe past 100. The client who referred us to this new client, his mother just passed away at 101. So this whole business of having an income for life, when you're looking at it from the perspective of somebody living to 100, it's a pretty sweet thing for that insured. Maybe not for the insurance company, but lifetime income plan. So we're talking about a specific client. She's 61 years old. He's 64. I met with these folks face to face 2 years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic, but really to just sit down and talk. And they were wanting to retire. They knew they couldn't retire right then, but they were wanting to, retire at some point soon. And we really thought, and they thought, they were going to work a little longer than they did work. But they got back with us the end of last year. This is this July of 2022 now, and it was the end of 2021. And they had, almost $1.1 million in 401k money. In his 401k, he had 440,000. And actually, at the time he came to us, he had a little over 500,000 because that was in the end of last year. And she had about 700,000. So they've lost some money in these accounts during the last 7 months, which is very concerning to them. And they hadn't really signed up with our services at this time. All they did a couple of years ago is paid us for a plan, and we told them all what they ought to do, including the future. And we, in a sense, warned them that they needed to roll this money or some of it out of the 401k and into a separate IRA with us. And then we would lower the risk factors in there. They could do that, or they could go to their own 401k, and we offered to help them and not roll the money out of there, but take some of the risk out of there, because they were both fairly risky. They didn't get that part of it. But then they came to us at the end of the year and they said, okay, we're ready to retire now. And then he retired at the end of the year. She retired in April. And we still, it's taken us this long to get the money out of both of their 401ks into their own IRA. And as of like a couple of days ago, she has $650,000 in there. He has $440,000. Between the two of them, they've got $1,090,000. So, and they have about another 150 grand in various savings accounts that are outside of IRAs. So they're like okay to buy cars and that kind of thing. And so what we determined is, before taxes, she needs $3,200 a month. He needs $2,500 a month, because he needs $500 a week after taxes. And that's kind of what he was making before at his job. And she needs $2,300 a month to pay her bills and have a little bit of extra money. And so we just calculated the taxes and the gross amount. We have all of this money under management, and we just set them up where we're sending them a check and sending the IRS their appropriate portion. And these people are just fine for right now, but we're making $5,700 a month in deductions out of almost $1.1 million. Well, the 1.1 is just going up and down every day. And that's driving them insane. I mean, it's just, they're both retired, and they don't look at it every day, but they like call us up, how much is it now? And it's just, so we knew we needed a different plan. We needed something different, but these folks weren't yet ready to completely get out of the market, as most people aren't. And they need to stay in the market. They need to be exposed and benefit from the growth of the market. So what we created was this plan that they're now implementing. Okay. And a couple of added pieces is we have this invested at 60% in equities and growth, 40% in fixed income, kind of the typical 60-40 ratio, which is much more favorable for them close to retirement than they were almost in 100% growth by their own doing in their 401k. So this has been an improvement once we've gotten the money over to us, but it's still too much exposure to risk for their liking and too much uncertainty over withdrawals just based upon their income. Now, the other thing they were wanting to do is he was wanting to start his Social Security now. He's like 64 and a half. She's not yet 62, but she is close. And so she's actually, when she was 62, she wanted to start her Social Security of a much lower amount than this $2,500 a month that she's going to get at full retirement at 67. He was wanting to start it early as well. And so if they had done that, they wouldn't be getting this $4,700. They'd get more like 3,500 or 3,200 or something. But they were thinking, well, gee, if we had that, we don't need to make that much of withdrawals out of this, and we can probably get by on that. We'll keep our taxes low, but a lot of uncertainty, and they'd be giving a lot of money to the government, especially if one of them lives a long time. By taking Social Security early, they would be crimping their style. Okay, so what we convinced them through this plan is to wait until full retirement to file for Social Security, which for her, that's going to be 5 years from now. For him, that's going to be 2 years from now. So we're going to ultimately have a $4,700 a month income. Now that'll be inflation adjusted. So with the way inflation's working right now, it'll probably be quite a bit more than $4,700 a month, but we're just going to work with what we know right now because their Social Security checks will be inflated, but they're going to need the inflated money to live. So, but when they do turn on Social Security, that'll mean that we'll have to deduct less money out of the money that we're managing. Okay, so what we did is we divided their money up into three, buckets, if you call it that, or three separate accounts. And one of the accounts is an income annuity where we put $400,000 in there. And as soon as we bring annuities into the equation, we got guarantee of principal. So that $400,000 is going to generate an income later. Okay, if you leave these income annuities alone for a few years, in our example here, it's as much as 10 years, you can have a guaranteed income in the future, pretty significant. And then once you start that, it's going to pay out for life, for the life of both of them. So whichever one survives the longest is going to be getting the checks. It's pretty sweet. So we've accomplished a lot with this second bucket where we've taken 400,000, guaranteed it, and then we have a future guaranteed income that we have some flexibility about when we start it. Then we've put another 200,000 into an accumulation annuity that really isn't designed to start paying out a monthly income at a point in the future. You could do that with it, but it's really designed just to be secure and to put 100,000 for each of them, or a total of $200,000 into this account. And there's a guarantee that they're never going to lose principal on this thing. So there's none of the losses. So if the market has a bad year like it's having for this year, they're just going to make zero on that account, which they can live with. And knowing that you're not going to have years like this every year forever. And so When the market's down, you get zero off of this thing. When the market's up, you don't get all the return. You just get a share of the return. And then the insurance company, it doesn't pay you the full amount, but they're also guaranteeing the principal in the thing. So why did we stick $200,000 into that one? Is, in our analysis, because we're fiduciaries to these people and all of our clients, is to pick what we think is the best one that guarantees the principal and has the best chance of an increase. And this account gives us total flexibility of drawing money out of it when we need to. And the plan with this is just to leave it there indefinitely, where it exists as an inflation hedge, a longevity hedge, um, just basically a savings account that's is still in an IRA, and then that'll be principal that'll be left in their estate if they never have to touch it. So what we've done for them in total is we've taken where they have almost 1.1 million at risk and lowered that to where they now have 490,000 at risk in this account that we're deducting the 5,700 bucks a month from. And so this amount is going to go up and down, and it's going to be going down by their deductions every month, but it's a smaller amount of their total portfolio that's at risk. And then we have this invested pretty conservatively at 60-40. So that'll give them a little less fluctuation over time. But the general direction of this account is going to be down because they're pulling out, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And they're going to be pulling that money out until they start their Social Security, which is for him in 2 years. So over time, the deductions for this account are going to be less. And then we're going to let that account lower to some amount that we haven't yet defined. But I'm thinking something like $100,000, $150,000. When it gets that low, then we're either going to turn to a couple of other places. Is one, we're going to turn on the income annuities. So, and that will replace the need for deductions from that and just shut off the deductions. Or if we don't want to turn the income annuities yet, we're going to go to these accumulation annuities and start pulling some money out of there to live off of until such time as we want to turn these income annuities on. So this thing has a lot of flexibility. And now I'd like Tom to just be able to show you around these two annuities that they purchased, just a little more meat on the bone.
Sure. And so down in the description of our video below, there's a link to this document where you'll be able to view it. It takes you to our website. You'll be able to see just kind of more details of, like John was saying. The first page is just kind of a summary. Some clients, they'll print this out and actually have this with them while they're looking at the board or while they're listening to the video as just kind of a way to take notes. So you don't have to use it that way. Some do. The next page is really just a summary of that first set of annuities Hans was talking about. And so this is the one where each of them put $200,000 into it. So a total of $400,000. And the plan is to delay that income and not take the income to the 11th year, to wait 10 years and then start the income in the 11th year. They don't have to do that. They can start it earlier. The earlier you start it, the lower the income will be. If we could show you all those different numbers, but for here and what we've done in this income plan is we've projected their account, the one with the 490 in it, lowering down to some appropriate amount and then starting the income from here. And so that just happens. The 11th year is the year we've selected. What it will do, and you can see this kind of highlighted in yellow, is the income starting in the 11th year will be $25,000, 427 for each one. So a total of just over $50,000 of guaranteed income coming into them. And so once they start that and they have their Social Security, they're going to have more than enough income to live on and actually be saving some money at that point. Now, inflation could be higher. They might need more in the future. Things can change. And that's really where we have those other buckets of money that we can access. But the plan is to delay these for a while start the income in the future and just really have a nice high guaranteed income coming in. One of the things that we like about this is that word guaranteed, is there is nothing in that first bucket of money that it's moving up and down with the investments. There's nothing in that that's guaranteed. Is the markets could keep falling and that account could be at zero before we expect it. Whereas this is with the annuities, is there is no risk of that happening, is the account value cannot go down based off market performance, and the income portion of this one is fixed from day one. And so we know as soon as they purchase this, they know what the income would be at the certain dates. And so that really helps secure their overall portfolio and really lessen the risk in there. I do want to make the point that you might not have $1 million in IRAs, and all these numbers are very linear. So if you have, say, $500,000, this strategy could still work for you. You would just cut the numbers in half and have kind of the same idea, the same philosophy behind it would still work, just with lower numbers. So it's not, don't view this as you have to have 1 million for this to kind of work out for you. The next page is really that second set of annuities, which is really the safer bucket, that has money that can't go down with the market. It's fixed. When it goes up, when the market goes up, you don't get all of the upside. You just get some of the upside, but with none of the downside risk. And so this is a way to take some of their money, have it very secure, have really no fees. This particular one has no fees at all in it that are deducted from your account value. So the worst that can happen is your account value stays right where you put it. Is the 100,000 you put in stays at 100,000. So this was 100,000 each for a total of 200,000. When the market goes up, you get some of the upside, and then it locks in that upside, or it can never go down below that unless you withdraw money from it. And so the purpose of this annuity is really to further secure their money, get more of it not at risk, so they don't have to worry about the fluctuation in the market so much. And this money, for their case, is probably unlikely they're ever going to touch this. And so this ultimately is going to be the legacy that they're going to leave to their kids. But it's a lot less risky than what they currently have it in. And so this, again, you can find these examples in the description below, the link there. And then if you're interested, reach out and we can actually run you a full proposal where we'll go into all the details specifically to your case.
Okay, so, I asked these folks when we sat down with them recently, we were asking a lot of questions, and they were in some misery over that this $1,090,000 really was about 1.2 million. I don't think they had added them up and put them together, but so they've lost about $110,000 during the last 6 months, or the first 6 months of 2022. And they're kind of thinking, like, where does it stop? They're thinking that, does this go to zero? And then when we start incurring market losses and we start doing reductions to live off of, because now we're in the situation of living off of it, where are we going with that? And so we kind of got, these are very low risk people, even though they didn't. The reason they've got this money is they were invested at risk, and they just, to a certain degree, got lucky over the last 12 years in the market. It's just been so great. And then all they've lost in the last 6 months is some of the great that they made, like last year, by not doing what we told them. So they haven't really lost anything other than money they made last year. So, but it was time to really draw a line in the sand, because now they're retired. They don't have income coming in anymore. We're making reductions. So one of the things I asked them, I said, let's just say for a moment that you were very fortunate. You kept this invested. You kept it at risk. And at some point in the future, you had 1.5 million or another 400,000 more than you had. What would that do to your lifestyle? Okay. And I hadn't showed them all this stuff yet. And so we sat there and talked, and it wouldn't do much, because these are simple people that aren't going to go out and start spending a lot of money. But I just wanted them to get their arms wrapped around making 400 grand, and just purely through the growth of investments. And we started there. I said, so let's take the reverse of that. Let's leave this all invested, maybe pulling some money out, but we had a point in the future where this was, you lost 400 grand. So instead of having 1,090,000, you had 690. You're down around 700,000. What would that do to you? And we started really talking about this, and that would be devastating. So sure, it'd be nice to make 400 grand, but not going to really do much for them. This would be devastating. And so that kind of took us to the point where we need to get these folks into lower risk. I mean, that's just what we needed to do. And so, and that's what we've done with this plan is we've taken them and put them in a position where they're not going to lose a substantial amount of money, partially by lowering down to about 40% of what it was, their balance or their amount at risk, and then taking that and putting it in a 60-40 portfolio, which is no guarantee because lately with bonds, those 40% in the bond market, that's gone down too. So this isn't guaranteed, but certainly put them in a position less risky with a lesser amount. And then we shored up their future where they're not going to be able to spend all this money unless they had some big change in lifestyle. That ain't going to happen with them, but it could. If one of them dies, they're still going to have most of the money, and the income part of this thing pays out if there's just one of them alive and lives a long time. So we've just secured their future. And then we've got this account is no surrender fees, no early penalties. If we just had something we had to buy or whatever, we can deal with that and just take it out of that account. We also, this account, they can get at this third or second annuity that Tom was talking about. We can get at 10% of that money in a year with no surrender penalties. And after the thing's 10 years old, there are no surrender penalties at all. So we can make withdrawals from there. But the plan is just to let this thing grow and grow and grow. And it's just an account that's there if they need it for a hedge for something, if they need it so they can freely spend from these other accounts and not save, just to kind of have that over there as a just in case money. And the plan with this thing, you just can't outlive this thing. It's like Social Security, but it's better than Social Security because it pays out 100% even after the first death. So this is what we did for one client. And I always, after I do one of these, I get people calling me and say, I want one of those. Well, maybe. I mean, we want to talk to you first. I don't want people to go start making investment decisions and income decisions based upon somebody else's situation. But we put them up here as an example that we don't take all of people's money and put it in annuities. In fact, we don't take all of people's money and stick it in one annuity. I mean, we got different types. We only use annuities to accomplish and get some guarantees that we really can't get anyplace else. So wanted to teach you the flexibility by adding in some annuities. And by the way, annuities are more favorable in today's environments because it's good for insurance companies when interest rates go up. I mean, it's bad a lot of ways for consumers, but insurance companies, they invest what is their policyholders' money in fixed income investments. So these products, both of them have been made, these annuity products have been made more favorable just over the last few months. As interest rates went up, the interest rate they can get, the insurance companies make their products more favorable. So with that, I'm Hans Scheil.
And I'm Tom Griffith.
And we both thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.